Good afternoon. I realized as I sat down to write this sermon that it's much easier to preach on Easter than on the Sunday after Easter. After all, Easter is about celebration. There's many good ways to approach it, religious and secular. Even people who are not particularly religious appreciate Easter. The Easter bunny, the candy, the children, the sense of joy and renewal that comes with it. But what is the Sunday after Easter about? The church treats Easter as the climax, the most important event. Then we arrive here, the Sunday after. It can feel kind of like a letdown, a what now moment. And that's what makes it harder to figure out what to say. So the question becomes, does the resurrection have meaning beyond Easter Sunday? Does it have meaning today? After all, in the ancient world, the idea of the dead being raised was not entirely unheard of. Even in the Gospels, Jesus raises Lazarus. But Lazarus eventually died again. The same is true of other stories from that time. But what made Jesus' resurrection different? One way to understand it is, Lazarus was brought back to life, but not to a life beyond death. Jesus' resurrection, as it is told and believed, is something else entirely. It is not simply a return to life, but a defeat of death. That's what made it so powerful for the early followers of Jesus. When Jesus was crucified, everything they believed in collapsed. The man they thought was the Messiah had been executed in the most humiliating and brutal way possible. By all appearances, the story was over. But then came the resurrection, and it changed everything. It gave them the courage to believe what Jesus had taught was still true. It gave them the strength to go out and share that message, the good news that death had been defeated and that something new was possible. It's also important to remember the world Jesus lived in. Jesus' teaching was deeply shaped by an expectation that God's kingdom was near, that something dramatic and transformative was about to happen. His followers believed that they were living on the edge of that moment, and their mission was to prepare others, to call people back to God, to be ready for this change. The kingdom, at least in that immediate sense, did not arrive the way they expected. Over time, Christianity changed. Jesus' message was simple: love God, love your neighbor. But as the church developed, it became more focused on beliefs, on doctrine, on theology, on institutions, on rules. The question became not just how we live, but what we believe. That's very different. And yet here at Chelsea Community Church, we're not really part of that institutional structure. We are a small, independent, lay-led community. What we try to do, imperfectly but sincerely, is live that original message: to love one another, to support one another, and to build community. Where does Easter fit into that? Or does the resurrection still matter for us? I think it does, but not perhaps in the way it once did. The resurrection for us is not about something that happened 2,000 years ago. It's about what that event represented and still represents. It represents hope. It represents the idea that the story is not over. That even when things seem lost, when something has died, there can be something new. Not necessarily in a literal, physical sense, but in a real sense. As I talked about a few weeks ago, from the point of view of physics and science, nothing ever disappears. The atoms that make us up have existed for billions of years and will continue to exist long after we're gone. But beyond that, there's something else about continuing. There is the idea that life continues through what we build, what we give, and what we leave behind. The resurrection gave the disciples the courage to move forward, to believe that what they had experienced with Jesus was not over, and it can do the same for us. So perhaps the Sunday after Easter is not a letdown. Perhaps it is a beginning, a moment to ask, what do we do now? How do we carry this forward? Easter becomes not just a celebration, but a renewal, a chance to begin again. Today, for many people, Easter is about bunnies and chocolate eggs. And that's fine, I can live with that. But it can also be something more. It can be a reminder that darkness is not permanent, endings are not always final, and that we have the capacity to begin again. And for us as a community, it is a call to continue doing what we have tried to do for the past 50 years. Love our neighbors, support one another, and in whatever small way we can, make the world a better place. Amen.